All praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the nation of Israel. This is going to be a continuation from the video that I was previously doing. Alright, I'm going to be carrying on from the same topic. Alright, and I can't remember exactly what it was that I said on the previous lesson, the last point that I finished off on. But I'm going to continue on the same topic anyway, where how people lie and say that Hebrew Israelites are only about the law, and in doing that they try and make out that you don't have to keep the laws in any way at all. This is 1 John chapter 5 and verse 2. By this we know that we love the children of God, when we love God and keep his commandments. So there's no point saying that you love Yahweh if you're not prepared to do any of the things that he said you're supposed to do, because if you ain't following after God's laws, and if you ain't following after God's ways, then whose ways are you following? Right? If you ain't following the way that God said that you're supposed to follow, then what way are you following? Then verse 3, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. So ultimately, the way how Yahweh told men to live on the earth is the best way to live. There's no better alternative. All the alternative ways that people have tried to live is the reason why Yahweh is going to have to cause for the second death to come upon the earth, because people have not been doing what he said. And after he does that, his fear is going to be put upon the whole earth then. His fear is going to be put permanently within the Israelites, because they're going to know to follow after his ways permanently forever under the new covenant. And through them being perfect, they're going to force the other heathen nations to try and strive for perfection for the whole of their lives, because they're going to be under the law and under the judgments of the law in the kingdom of heaven. And the Israelites are going to follow the law perfectly in the kingdom of heaven, due to being under the new covenant. Psalm chapter 19 and verse 7. The law of Yahweh is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of Yahweh is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of Yahweh are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandments of Yahweh is pure, enlightening the eyes. So you only get enlightened by understanding what Yahweh says is the right way. You don't get enlightened by, oh, they've made a new law in the government on the gov.uk website in the UK. So now we got to follow that, and it's a new way. Every single time Esau makes a new law or a new way, all he's showing is that the previous way that he made was not right, and that there's something wrong with that. Whereas Yahweh's laws have always stayed the same, showing that he never made mistakes in the past. Which is the reason why when you read Hebrews the 8th chapter and the 7th verse, it says, for finding a fault with them, meaning for finding a fault with the Israelites. Whereas Esau's laws change all the time, man. 1 minute selling weed or smoking weed, is illegal, right? And then the next thing you know, now it's legal all of a sudden. But them same people that ended up in jail for that crime are still in there, and they don't release them for making it legal now. Which shows that this is a nation of hypocrites, man. Verse 9, the fear of Yahweh is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of Yahweh are true and righteous altogether. How many Israelites is it that has been falsely accused and put in prison? And then when they find out the other person lied, they don't put them in prison for the rest of their life. Or they don't put them in prison for the same amount of time that they put that person in. Which that's what they should do. And then they should compensate that person as well. Thoroughly. All the money that that person made in that time when the other person was in jail, they should be taken away from them and given to the person that they put in jail, man. That'd be a lot more of a righteous judgment than what happens, where they basically pretty much go oops and then let the person out, and they might give them a bit of money. But that money hasn't came from the time, isn't an alternative to the time that they've missed out on, man. All the experiences in life that they could have had. Let me get this, because the laws are going to be done on the earth whether people like it or not. Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 7. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, which is what I said verse 7 a minute ago, but I meant verse 8. It's actually verse 8. Verse 8, for finding fault with them, he saith, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. Which still to this day, people don't even recognize and know what the new covenant is, man. They don't know. Everyone runs their mouth saying, oh, when we can't keep the laws perfectly. But that don't mean we can't wait patiently for the day where we can, though, does it? But these people don't even want to accept that there's a day that's coming that the Israelites are going to be able to keep the laws perfectly. And then for all the people out there that are saying that they're a spiritual Israel, they don't want to accept that if that was even true, which is not, by the way, that would mean that according to the scriptures, there's a day that they're going to be able to keep it according to their doctrine. But the reason why they're against the laws is because they know it doesn't benefit them, man. A heathen doesn't benefit in this time right now from keeping Yahweh's laws. Because if the world was governed by Yahweh's laws and people was having to being forced by the rulers now to keep God's laws, that would cause for the Israelites to rise as a nation. Because the Israelites are the nation that benefits the most from keeping Yahweh's laws, because we're the one that Yahweh's made a contract with. But if we keep the laws, we'll be set on high above all nations on the earth. So even if every single nation was keeping all of God's laws, Yahweh only made a contract with us anyway, and would raise us above every other nation, even though all the other nations were keeping the laws. Let me prove it. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to observe and to do all his commandments which I commanded this day, that Yahweh thy power will set thee on high above all nations on the earth. So even if every single nation was keeping the laws, right, Yahweh only made a contract with us. So he would have made us be the top nation. Even back then, if every single other nation would have kept the laws back then, we would have still been the top nation. Because Yahweh said that was going to be one of the blessings that we would receive, man. And that's the reason why these other nations don't care about keeping Yahweh's laws. Because they know this. They know this at the elite level. They know this, man. Now let me finish off on Hebrews 8 and 10 and I'm going to end the lesson. Because the laws are going to be done on the earth anyway, man. Whether these people want to accept it or not. Verse 9, Hebrews 8 and 9. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they can continue not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. For this is the covenant that I'll make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I'll put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I'll be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for all shall know me from the least to the greatest. So every single Israelite eventually is going to know all of Yahweh's laws, man. Every single one of them. Verse 12. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. Right? So Yahweh is going to eventually forgive the Israelites for all the things that they did wrong, all their evils. Right? And I'm going to end the lesson there. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Makar Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect to the nation of Israel. Shalom.